In Kumasi, affiliates across the country, on ABN Radio in London and around the world at myjoyonline.com. The news is brought to you by Telisol 4G, just a touch. And coming up, teachers in Tripoli deserting schools there will hear from students who say they have been left on their own. Despite a GES directive, the school will not be shut down.
I guess in the school now, police are running out and then, or even right now after we're here, none of them still want to go home. Even after in the computer, we cannot see, we cannot read, we want to go home. Even the chairs themselves are going.
You had a student of the Tripoli Technical SHS. We'll bring you more details. Meanwhile, the police hits hard at NADMO following its claim it is unable to access the area to provide relief for displaced residents.
This claim by NADMO is untenable. Ask NADMO if they have come to security for an escort to wherever they want to go and we didn't escort them.
We'll get a reaction from NADMO as the Interior Minister calls on leadership of the two feuding factions to smoke the peace pipe. Also in this package, bad leadership, gross mismanagement and poor policy decisions to blame for fast depreciating cedi. That's the minority's diagnosis as it demands government submits a fresh budget statement.
The current worsening economic condition are self-inflicted. They stem from gross mismanagement and poor policy choices by His Excellency President Akufo-Addo's government, which economic management team is led by our Vice President. We should be immediately presenting a new budget.
We'll tell you more as the minority maintains the 2019 budget has been thrown out of gear. And Interior Minister Ambrose Derry apologizes for assault on Ghanaian Times journalists by police.
We apologize for whatever my sector agencies might have had with you people, but it's not in our spirit. It's in the spirit of the president, as you know, to push the frontiers of free expression.
We'll hear from him, plus a call from some quarters for a media blackout of the police. And in sports,
Deputy Sports Minister Peyo Kujeto has no qualms with FIFA's 6-month mandate extension for the Ghana Football Association Normalization Committee. We hear from him later.
And how about a weekend away from the city for a canoe ride in an entire village built on stilts? The JoyFM's fantastic photo bus is heading to Izulezu this weekend.
It's all fun here at Izulezu. How are you feeling? Very happy. I'm so excited.
We'll bring you more. You don't want to miss any part of this package. Thanks for your company. Let's start from Tripoli, where teachers there are said to be deserting schools following the renewed clashes between the Konkombas and the Chokosis that has left 3 people dead and more than 1,000 displaced. Police have sent reinforcement to the area, which they say remains volatile, according to students of the Tripoli Technical SHS. Although there was a directive by the Ghana Education Service for them to remain on campus, many of their teachers have left due to tension in the area. Some of them who masked up at the Tripoli police station earlier today say they want to be allowed to go home.
I guess in the school now, police are running out and then we can also smoke the security mine partner we can, and they say we told our sister said that don't worry, the system will come and gather. I will be watching. They never come here. Sometimes they will just come watch me when I go, and that is for even right now after we're here. None of them is here.
So what do you want to be done for you as students?
Yes, please, madam. What we want is to go home. Even after we're in the computer, we cannot see, we cannot read it. So we want to go home so that even the teachers themselves are going. Most of the times, most of our parents to go to the war, the students to go and come and tell us, they burn our place. That they burn our place. It's not like they will sort of like, to kill us like fowls and fowls. So we are not fed, and all the time they all left the campus, even we alone. We don't know, and we cannot move anywhere.
We are told that the security is protecting the school. Is that the case?
No, it's a lie.
So what are you saying?
No one is there.
Okay, what are
the fight? No, I just there like that.
What are you doing?
Madam, the thing is, we are just sitting down. We don't know what to do. But because we don't have security here, they are just asking anyhow with guns.
When you say they are acting with guns, what does that mean?
When we are in class and they are passing, when we are in class and they are passing with guns like this, we share and we don't have much. We can't eat. 3 days now, we don't go to class. And the other class, as I'm telling you, Nobody is here again. Even some people even get it.
We do apologize for the low quality in portions of that sound clip, but you heard some students of the Tripoli Technical SHS speaking to my colleague Martina Bugri there. We understand from the police PRO in the area, DSP Yusuf Tanko, that there was a meeting yesterday between school authorities, the GES and security personnel, and there was a decision made that the students should remain on campus because there's total security in Tripoli. He explains to us that the conflict is in other districts of Tripoli and not Tripoli itself. And on the claim that there are armed men using the school as a thoroughfare, he says that he could not confirm that as at 10 a.m., but we will get more details on this for you. Meanwhile, the police has criticized NADMO following its claim it is unable to access the area to provide relief for displaced residents. NADMO officials have told Joy News they've been unable to reach the areas where displaced persons are because it is unsafe. Regional Police PRO DSP Mohammed Yusuf Tango tells Joy News that these claims are false.
This claim by NADMO is untenable. NADMO is reported to have said that because of insecurity, they are not able to go to the interior. That is not true. Ask NADMO if they have come to security for an escort to wherever they want to go, and we didn't escort them. We are available. We have policemen. We have military men on the ground. So if you want to go to places to take care of the people there, and you have reservations security-wise, what you have to do is to contact the security for some escort. The conflict has not gotten to Tripoli. The conflict is at the small communities around, within the Tripoli district.
You heard the police PRO for the northern region. We've been joined on the line now by the Deputy Director of NADMO for a reaction on this. Good morning, Mr. Seji Saji. Good afternoon, I beg your pardon, Mr. Seji Saji.
Good afternoon.
Well, you had the police PRO there. He says these claims are untenable. How do you respond?
Yes, but I think the information NADMO put out was as of Saturday. You know, the conflict started on Friday and escalated on Saturday. So it was Saturday when the regional director was granted an interview and he made that comment. But after that, there have been a lot of developments. As we speak, relief items are now at Kushegu and Bumprugu Yoyo. And, you know, we have a camp around Bumprugu Yoyo. That's a Pentecost church and some private house that we have some women and children. And NADMO is attending to those people as we speak. In Kushegu to the same. In Tripoli, we don't really have a camp because most of the people move to their relatives. So that claim that the fighting escalated and because of that we couldn't do relief administration was as of Saturday, not as of today or even yesterday.
Mr. Saji, just help us understand, have you been able to reach all those who are affected?
Please come again.
I'm asking if you've been able to reach all persons affected by the conflict.
No, we have not been able to reach all persons yet. Especially in Tripoli, it is even difficult reaching the people because we don't have a camp where all the people are gathered. But we have a camp at Bumprugu Yoyo and Kushegu. In Bumprugu Yoyo, the last figures we are getting now is over 1,800 people there. And the one in Kushegu, we are getting almost over 800 people. And now we got our last report as of yesterday evening. But this morning, when I spoke to the regional director, they are administering relief to those at Bumprugu Yoyo, those at Kushegu.
But why is there no camp at Tripoli? That is the heart of the conflict.
No, the Tripoli itself, as I'm sure you listen to the commander, in the Tripoli district, the fighting.
Yes, I understand. When I say Tripoli, exactly. I mean the district, because you say the you don't have a camp in Tripoli itself, but the places where the conflict is within the Tripoli district. But you have camps elsewhere, and I'm asking why not at Tripoli, because that is closer to where the conflict is.
What happens is that these districts we are mentioning, they all share borders. So depending on how close your community is to where the camp is, people move there. So you can have somebody in Tripoli district, but the person community is closer to maybe the next district, the person moves there. So that's why We don't actually have a camp there. But what is happening there is that records are being taken of those displaced persons who have moved to their relatives.
Do you have any estimation? Do you have any estimation of the displaced persons you've not been able to reach?
You see, it is a continuous conflict. Even this morning, there was some burning in some communities. So you cannot, at the goal, just estimate the number of people. The number keeps increasing. And as I told you just earlier, that at Bunkrugu Yoyo we have over 1,800, and in Gushegu we have close to, I think, 800 people there. That was the report we got as of yesterday in the evening.
Thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for your time. We have to end it here. Deputy Director of NADMO, Seji Saji, was the one you just heard. Meanwhile, Interior Minister Ambrose Derry is calling on the leadership of the two feuding factions involved in the violence in the Tripoli district to help in bringing sustainable peace to the area. Speaking on the sidelines of an annual review meeting of the ministry and its agencies in Accra today, he observed that growing suspicion amongst the two groups is fanning the conflict and must be nipped in the bud.
The situation in Tripoli is regrettable. Clearly, we are dealing with a situation where we need the leadership of the two groups, the Kokumba and the Anofos. We involved them in the committee. They were represented, and the committee has submitted its report. But clearly, we need, in the implementation and moving forward, for the leadership of both sides to educate the people on the ground on what transpired. Because it's about land. And if it's about land, the law is clear. You go to due process. But it appears that there is suspicion. And the only way the suspicion can be handled effectively is, of course, apart from the police and soldiers being on the ground, which they are, that the leadership of both groups must step forward and make sure that people live in peace. For instance, an event takes place in village A, and then you have the retribution in village D, far away. So what happens is that you have the security people at the point of potential conflict, and yet it's spilling over. And if it's spilling over because there is a certain level of suspicion, and that level of suspicion must be nipped in the bud. And that is the way we're thinking of going forward with it. Yes, the police and the soldiers are there, reinforcements have been sent, and we continue to do that. But we're talking about sustainable peace, and the sustainable peace must be participatory, and the people concerned must begin to move away. I think that the historical enskinment and installation of the Yana and the Yana's enskinment of the leading princess of Dabong has practically restored peace by and large to Dabong. And we want the impact to go beyond Dabong.
Interior Minister Ambrose Derry there. Let's do some other stories now. The minority in Parliament is asking government to immediately submit a fresh budget statement to the House, insisting the 2019 budget has been thrown out of gear by the depreciation of the cedi. Minority spokesperson on finance, Kaisala Toforsen, says this is as a result of bad leadership, gross mismanagement of the economy and poor policy decisions of the Akufo-Addo-led government. This comes at a time when the cedi has seen some slight appreciation despite weeks of depreciating significantly. Mr. Toforsen wants Ghanaians to brace themselves for tough times ahead. Listen.
The current worsening economic condition are self-inflicted. They stem from gross mismanagement and poor policy choices by His Excellency President Akufo-Addo's government, which economic management team is led by our Vice President. The rapid decline to the value of the cedi has thrown the economy in disarray, and the projections surrounding it as contained in the 2019 budget. This has therefore undermined the confidence in the economy and sent the wrong signals to the investor community. This calls for urgent steps to be taken by government to restore the economic health. The starting point is that we should be immediately presenting a new budget which considers all the distortions and serious problems occasioned by the fall of the value of the cedi. At the minimum, we expect a statement to Parliament assuring the nation and the investor community on the steps taken by government to address the instability of the economy. The budget as presented by the Minister of Finance can no longer be relied upon as the true blueprint upon which the management of the economy for the year can hinge. its credibility and sustainability have been completely undermined by the cedi depreciation.
You heard that case Alato Force, and he's a minority spokesperson on finance. Parliamentary correspondent Joseph Opoku-Gakpo joins us from Parliament. Joseph, we understand the minority is also not impressed about the recent Eurobond issued by government, which analysts have touted. What exactly is their concern with the Eurobond in relation to the cedi's depreciation?
They say government is creating the impression that as a result of what they describe as the success with the Eurobond, it means there is huge confidence in the economy. And they think that is completely out of place. As Forson says, that is an effort in continually painting the wrong picture on the economy to Ghanaians and the international community at large.
The issuance of the 2019 Eurobonds as approved by Parliament of 3 billion at a net of 1 billion will only improve short-term liquidity, but will not address external vulnerabilities. We want to use this opportunity to caution government not to give false hope to the citizens, since this will not address the depreciation of the currency. The Chairman, let me use this opportunity to quote our Vice President, Dr. Awumia, on a statement that he issued on 4th August 2014. The Chairman, quoting, he said, while the Eurobond borrowing will provide additional borrowed foreign exchange to support the cedi, the impact is bound to be temporal if the fundamentals are not addressed. Note that the Bank of Ghana has already spent some $6.5 billion of foreign exchange reserves in the last 6 years to no avail. So what difference will an additional $1.5 billion make if the underlying policies are wrong? And this is according to Dr. Awumia in a statement he issued on 4th August 2014.
All right, Joseph, so tell us what the minority's proposal is on how to deal with this matter.
They say there is an unseen political hand manipulating the Bank of Ghana in how it sets the monetary policy rate. And their first demand is that the Bank of Ghana should be allowed to do an independent job in terms of how they handle the currency market. And it will help restore some amount of confidence.
Government must focus on building a strong and resilient real sector that will support the consolidation of the gains from other key sectors. The time to end the high import dependency economy dilemma is now. It is clear that this government has boxed itself into a tight corner and now taking a very desperate measures that will make matters even worse.
Joseph, do we have a reaction from the majority side in Parliament?
I just pulled out George Mekuduka, the MP for Takwa and Vice Chair of the Energy Committee. So your colleagues say the economy is in trouble and is headed for crisis. Those are the words of Isaac Adongo, particularly in relation to the depreciation of the cedi. Your reaction?
They're just doing it to occupy the political space. I don't think there is a need for this press conference. When the cedi was declining, they didn't, organize any press conference of this nature. They just got themselves organized to put the Ghanaians' mind off the track, and knowing that the cedi is, doing well now because it's now trading at 5.38 pesos, which is encouraging from the 5.78 that we previously had, and this is encouragement. Just doing this, to put our minds off the positive track that we're making, and they indicated that we've lost, investors' confidence. How can you lose an investor's confidence if people are having the confidence to invest and produce Toyota, VW, Suzuki in Ghana? It tells you that the confidence is high and they are ready to do more to support the nation.
George Mekuduka there.
Thank you very much. Joseph Opoku-Gakpo is our correspondent in Parliament. Now, the Asantehene Otumfuo Osei Tutu II is asking chiefs in his kingdom to give a candid assessment of his stewardship as he marks 20 years on the golden stool. He told members of the Asanteman Council at a meeting, good feedback will serve as a guide for the future. Nanaya Ojima witnessed proceedings and reports.
On April 26, 1999, Barima Kwakudua, then 49-year-old, was installed the 16th Asantehene under the stool name Otumfuo Osei Tutu II. he was seen as the return of Otumfuo Osei-Tutu I, founder of the modern Asante State. Establishment of Otumfuo Educational Fund to support especially the less privileged was one of his early initiatives. The recent end to a 17-year-old Dabon chieftaincy dispute crisis, culminating in the enscarement of a new Yana, is certainly one of Otumfuo's achievements. He led the committee of 3 eminent chiefs to fashion out a roadmap for peace. Now, Otumfuo believes it is time for his paramount chiefs, with whom he has been working, to assess him.
We will have to evaluate our performance as a traditional council. We will have to be truthful to ourselves, so I would know how to improve upon things moving forward. After 20 years, have we been able to secure anything from government for our people? Are we able to secure jobs for the youth? After these, we'll be able to know what to do moving forward. Government is supposed to ensure development. They are those taking taxes, but we have a part to play.
Nanaya Ojima reporting.
You're listening to the Midday News here on Joy 99.7 FM. Coming up shortly, Interior Minister Ambrose Derry apologizes for assault on Ghanaian Times journalists by police.
We apologize for whatever my sector agencies might have had with you people, but it's not in our spirit. It's in the spirit of the president, as you know, to push the frontiers of free expression.
We'll hear more from him, plus a call from some quarters for a media blackout of the police. And how about a weekend away from the city for a canoe ride in an entire village built on stilts? The JoyFM's fantastic four-tour bus is heading to Nzulezu this weekend.
In our quest to see what it felt like living on water, we saw this beautiful edifice, a fort. Do we know where we are?
Yeah, we are at Fort Apollonia.
National Bank presents its 4th edition of the Economic and Business Breakfast, an opportunity for the Ghanaian business community to understand the macroeconomic fundamentals with the practicalities of doing business in Ghana. According to the 8th edition of Where to Invest in Africa report by RMB, the corporate and investment banking arm of First Rand Group, Ghana remains one of the top 10 most attractive investment destinations in Africa. Senior RMB researcher Celeste Fakone will assess each African economy's investment potential with a key focus on Ghana's economic future. Date is Tuesday, 26th March 2019 at 9 a.m. This event is strictly by invitation. Call 0242 435050 or email info@firstnationalbank.com.gh to book a seat. Proudly supported by Joy Business, empowering, prospering together. First National Bank. How can we help you?
Thanks for staying on the Midday News on Joy 99.7 FM. It's now time for the latest sports updates. Ridwan, hello.
Yes, let's do football. And we understand that the nominalization committee will get a 6-month extension when the initial deal expires at the end of this month. However, FIFA is yet to officially announce the deal for the Dr. Kofi Annan-led committee. Critics, argue that the committee wasted a lot of time since its composition in September last year. And also they lack the requisite know-how to restore sanity in the game. But Deputy Sports Minister Peyo Kujeto disagrees. He says time shouldn't be a factor.
For us, our goal is not timelines. Our goal is how well the job will be done and how we can make sure that we have a structure that is able to repackage Ghana football and steer it towards greater heights. To win back the credibility that it needs to be able to do two things: to attract corporate sponsorship for our league, and two, to be able to attract the needed eyeballs back into our facilities.
You heard Deputy Sports Minister Peyo Kujeto. Extensive interview will be on Sports Today at 2 p.m. on television. That's on the Joy News channel.
Thank you, Ridwan. Now, Interior Minister Ambrose Derry has apologized for the assault on 3 Ghanaian Times staff by police in Accra last week. The 2 journalists, Malik Suleimana and Raisa Sambu, and their driver were assaulted by a policeman with the help of 10 other men in uniform after the officer jumped the traffic light and ran into their vehicle. There has been condemnation from many quarters of the act, which some have described as an attack on media freedom. Commissioner of Shraj Joseph Watal says the police must use the Ghanaian Times incident to rid their ranks of unprofessional men.
It's clear that there's a lot of unprofessional conduct coming from the police, and I'm very certain that the police high command would want to clean their image. And so for this to happen a day or two after the submission of the report of the Short Commission, which is all about police-civilian relations, and the fact that even though the report has not yet, the findings are not known, we all saw it. This is how the police can begin to clean their image by ensuring that errant police officers are properly investigated, not covered by police intelligence and professional conduct investigations, but they are properly put before a law court, just like every other citizen, because they are not above the law and prosecuted. This is the right thing.
Joseph Watal is Commissioner of Shraj. As the New Times Corporation files a report at the National Media Commission and the Information Ministry on the assault of their journalists and staff, there are calls for a more drastic action to deal with issues of assault on journalists. We'll hear from Secretary of the Ghana Journalists Association shortly, but listen to Interior Minister Ambrose Derry, who says last week's incident would not have occurred if the police had the requisite equipment to track motorists who flout road traffic regulations.
Some incidents happened recently about the police having to sit in a car, and then there was some assault in the rest of them. When we get to where we want to get to, as far as equipment is concerned, the police will not have to go sit in a car. The police has a communication equipment. He calls, and then all the police all over the place pick the number of the vehicle and they stop the vehicle. But because we are still scrabbling to get them sufficiently equipped, some of the moves they make puts them in harm's way precisely because we haven't equipped them properly. When we get to where we want to get to, thanks to the president's commitment, you wouldn't need videos because the uniform the police wear would have equipment there to tell us what they do in the whole day. So I want to say on behalf of the ministry that we apologize for whatever my sector agencies might have had with you people, but it's not in our spirit. It's in the spirit of the president, as you know, to push the frontiers of free expression, and that's the only way we can progress as a nation.
Interior Minister Ambrose Derry there. Meanwhile, General Secretary of the Ghana Journalists Association, Kofi Yeboah, believes it's time media practitioners considered a media blackout on the police following the recent case of assault. Now, how about a weekend away from the city for a canoe ride in an entire village built on stilts? This weekend, JoyFM's fantastic 4 tour bus moves to Nzulezu in the western region, the beautiful village built on Lake Amansuri and overlooking Lake Tadani. If you missed the tour to Afajato and the Treasure Island, don't stay away from this because it's going to be really exciting. Nasia Mefatradosi brings us a recap of last year's trip to Nzulezu.
It was a long drive to the western side, 6 good hours. Many patrons wanted to catch the flora and the wonderful scenes of the countryside, but the body was weak. Quest to see what it felt like living on water, we saw this beautiful edifice, a fort. Most of us had no clue which fort it was, but these ladies, do we know where we are?
Yeah, we are at Fort Apollonia.
Apollonia Fort. This little girl came to learn a lot about this fort.
I learned that they kept the slaves in a cell. They kept them in the cell for 12 hours.
Nancy Dradosi there with a recap of last year's event. Well, it's happening this Saturday on the 23rd of March. 600 cities for double occupancy, including food, transport and accommodation, and 800 cities for single occupancy, including food, transport and accommodation. You don't want to miss this. Just give us a call on 054 433 6512. You're listening to the Midday News. It's now time for What's Trending, Maps.
All right, so people are talking about the Tripoli conflict on our Facebook page, and Baba Moro says our intelligent network is very weak. I don't know what work the BNI station and ceremony is doing there. At Queen Roo says, please, someone should help stop this. And Abdul Jalil says, we need peace in this district. The security should identify the groups who always attack first and deal with them for peace to prevail. For more comments, you can go to our Facebook page, Joy 99.7, and Joy News on TV.
And for more news, you can log on to myjoyonline.com. I'm Benes Abubedu Lansa. Thanks for your company. Good afternoon.